Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Texans win yesterday and yet another interesting victory. And DeMeco Ryans afterwards said that, excuse me, CJ Stroud afterwards said that at some point here they'll be less interesting. It's ironic, I think, that one of the more interesting but less oddly interesting games that the Texans have played this year was against the Jaguars, where it was a thorough drubbing, but it was with a few weird plays, or at least plays that you can't count on every week. Remember, we had the, the Andrew Beck touchdown on the kickoff return. We had the Christian Harris blocked field goal. There's a lot of really good stuff in that game, but I think these are two different teams right now. I think the Texans are better in a lot of respects. I think the Jaguars they're better, but they look more like what you thought they were going to be capable of. It just took them a little while to get going. So Texans should be a good one. Should be a good one here in Houston, just 6 days from now. Hola to you, Dr. Mater. Was that dark matter? Oh, dark matter. All right. Bad. I'll tell you what, dark matter. I've been trying to wrap my head around space time now for a while, and I'm thinking about going back to college just for that. It was I was actually the NFL will. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Seth Payne. Played for the Texans for 5 years. I played in the NFL for 10 years. College dropout. I keep thinking about going back to school. The NFLPA will give you like up to $20,000 a year to go back to school now. So I'm thinking to go back and major in not physics or chemistry or anything like that, but just understanding space time. DeMeco Ryans, let's get into this. I have not watched any of DeMeco Ryans' press conference today, so here we go. You know what? I'm going to do one thing. I'll chop this up later and make it more efficient for anybody that needs it. I want to see if I have the transcripts just in case we can't hear. It seems like the audio is better yesterday. I do have the transcripts, and if we need to, we'll go to those. First question is going to be about finishing out the game in these close game situations, but hopefully the audio is good again. Although I know some of you come to me just because of that. Are you sleepy this time of day from getting up early? So the radio show's at 6 a.m. This morning I was up at like 3 a.m. a little bit, but I kind of get going. I don't know. I can fall asleep very easily at night and then also at any time during the day if I need to grab a 20-minute nap. So I don't worry about it too much. New viewer, love the breakdowns. Thank you, The Prince, 63357. And hello, everyone, and Seth. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, the Texans press conferences sometimes have questions from the reporters that are completely inaudible. So I read from the transcripts when that is the case. This first question of DeMeco is about finishing out the game in these close game situations.
Being good in the
Okay, it was something. I don't know. It was about something about being good in close game situations.
clutch situation, it takes everybody just executing in the moment, everyone not like losing their mind and trying to do something like I'm trying to make a play mentality. You don't have to try to make a play. It's just everybody just doing their job, being where they're supposed to be, playing together as all 11. That's how you win in those critical moments. At the end of the day, it's still, right, still about executing. And that's what it happens. That's what it comes down to in those critical moments.
You know, it'd be easy to give a cliche answer there, I think. And, there's certain truths about that, about keeping your calm. I do think that it's funny, football coaches want so hard to be military guys, or a lot of them do. And then when you talk to military officers or just read about how everything is, it's all about keeping an even keeping a low heart rate, keeping an even keel, being able to separate emotion from decision making and everything. All these things that football coaches often are like awful at doing. So that's where I think DeMeco, I'm growing more and more comfortable and almost soothed by seeing him on the sideline, where he's got that look of concern and concentration, but never anything close to panic. And I don't know if I've seen anything close to anger out of him yet. I think the closest I've seen to anger was when Denzel Perryman, when the official was explaining the Denzel Perryman penalty a couple weeks ago, and it looked like DeMeco mouthed like, "What do you mean?" or something, but that was about it. Remind me if there was another one.
You mentioned in the VP conversations, you could. You're now being mentioned in the Coach of the Year conversations. What does that mean to you without a bunch of coach speak?
Okay, he was asked about him being mentioned in Coach of the Year conversations, and what does that mean to him? I'm going to predict that DeMeco says something along the lines of those things are nice, but I'm focused on other things. We're focused on other things.
For me, getting mentioned for getting the mention for Coach of the Year, CJ getting the MVP mentions, it doesn't matter to us, honestly. Like, I really don't care. That's not what I seek out to be, or that's not what CJ as a player. We don't seek out for the personal accolades. That's not what we work for, right? We work together as a team, right, to put ourselves in good position to play meaningful football, and that's where we are. And we just have to keep going out, getting better, right, keep executing throughout the end of the year, all right, continue to put together some wins. That's what's important to us.
So rat poison, right? That's what Nick Saban would call it, rat poison. Boy, some Petrie stuff. You know what? I realize that this has become a dull roar. Seth, has Petrie been exposed, or is it him adjusting to the new scheme? Don't remember him getting cooked as much last year. And then I know Brown Chubby Bear. Thanks for joining, Brown Chubby Bear. They played Petrie in the box a ton last year. They're not doing that as much this year. Why do you think that is? Okay, a couple things. And, you know, it is worth a deep dive on it that I wouldn't feel super, super comfortable doing right now, because that was my plan for this week. I think with Jalen, sorry, let me plug my computer in before it dies. I think with Jalen, there's a few things going on. I do wonder if he's either injured or sick or something, or maybe just worn out somehow. One second. I mean, the weird thing from last week, regardless of any errors or missed plays or anything, was just him not showing up on the box score at all 2 weeks ago. And, you know, obviously he hasn't shown up as impactfully. I think there was last year, you know, when Jimmy Ward was on Richard Sherman's podcast, he mentioned about meeting Jalen for the first time, and Jalen telling Jimmy about how many tackles he had last year. And Jimmy said, you know, that's not really a good thing when your safeties have that many tackles. So I don't think, Jalen didn't really get a genuine indoctrination to what it means to play safety in the NFL last year. He got a lesson in what it's like to try to run up and tackle Derrick Henry in the open field when nobody else had slowed him down. Like, so that probably sucked. I think this year he's having to learn how to genuinely play deep safety. And as far as where they're aligning him this year versus in the box, I mean, in general, they've had to, by necessity, play more conservatively. So I think that him being a true backstop is more the priority this year. And I think it's going to be a work in progress. So I'm not panicking about Jalen Petrie. I think you also just have to remember too that I think he's a very active guy, but he was also in that boat last year of being a guy who had a lot of potential, but who was on and I don't want to slam that defense too much. I mean, they broke down in the third and fourth quarters a lot, but they were a horrible run defense. So I feel like this is kind of like that was kind of his red shirt year last year, like except that he was playing football. It's like he was on the JV, and this year it's for real. So I'm not going to panic about him at all. I think that he still has upside. It's just like with Christian Harris. It took Christian Harris until a few games ago to really start clicking. And I think with Jalen, maybe it's just that. But thanks for the questions. And I'm going to spend more time on that. Next question.
Yeah, I did win.
Oh, he said, John said, didn't you win the, can you win the Coordinator of the Year award? Hold on one second. I got to hear this whole exchange. I could actually hear John.
Throughout the end of the year, all right, continue to put together some wins. That's what's important to us.
Did you win a Coordinator of the Year award last year?
Yeah, I did win. I won an Assistant Coach of the Year last year. My kids love that trophy. It's for them.
DeMeco's got, DeMeco's, I wonder, does DeMeco have a trophy room or does he have everything in a couple dusty old boxes in his closet? I don't know. It's not one way or the other. It doesn't matter. It just, he feels like he's a guy that like all of a sudden someday in an old folks home, people discover after like knowing DeMeco for 9 years, somebody stumbles across an old news clipping and realizes that DeMeco used to really, really be somebody, but he's just so damn humble that he would never think to bring it up.
The last Cardinals drive, did you notice anything about their approach, their operation, that maybe they moved a little bit slower than they had at different points in the game, maybe trying to bleed a little bit extra clock to make sure that was, the last possession, or, with the late heroics that you guys have had, maybe a whole lot less time than previously. Did you notice anything?
Okay, he was asked about the fact that the Cardinals seem to be moving slower, perhaps trying to drain time off the clock, and just did he notice anything about their pace of operations?
Their last drive?
I think it was a normal operation. I think any team in that situation, you want to finish with the ball, right, and have an opportunity to score there at the end. So I think they were trying to do that. I think our crowd played a big factor into them having to, take a timeout, them having a false start there. So it was our crowd really played an important piece, all right, to that last drive.
Okay, so Kyler Murray in that offense, I'll be honest with you. Now that I can be a fan and fully pull for Kyler Murray for probably a few years until the Texans face them again, I think this offense could be really, really good for him. I mean, like, frankly, Cliff Kingsbury's offense, in theory, could have done some really cool things, except that there were certain parts of it that just were not cut out to genuinely develop a quarterback and to really thrive in the NFL. It's a whole lot of expecting really good receivers to win their one-on-ones or to the quarterback to make quick reads, and just it was kind of stuck in the mud in a lot of ways. So this is the first time where Kyler Murray has actually had to be in an organized, structured, play action dependent type of scheme. And it's going to be an adjustment for him. And talking to somebody that was in the Cardinals locker room, Kyler Murray himself was gassed at the end of that game. And I think you could see it. And like, look at some of these underthrows from the past 2 weeks. I think he's just still getting his legs back, from the combination of the injury, rehab, and also just trying to run this type of offense for the first time in his life, high school, college, NFL. It's going to be a work in progress for him, but I think it's going to be really good for him if he sticks with it. He's talked about baseball a little bit lately, not like suggesting that he'd want to play, but I feel like if it goes poorly, he could want to play baseball again. But that's the money's just not going to be there for it. He's already got his baseball money.
Go ahead, Sean. Thank you, Sarge. A week ago, C.J. Stroud threw that fourth quarter interception against the Bengals, and said he went over to you and said, "Hey, I got you." Did you guys say the same thing to him yesterday, more than just figuratively? What was that like on the side?
Okay, so Sean Bajani said something along the lines of, a week ago, CJ Stroud went up to coach after his interception and said, "Hey, I got you." And no, was it? Yeah, whatever he said. Let me see what the transcripts say. He said, my working memory is too crappy. Let's see. On the conversation on the sideline following CJ Stroud's interception, and if he said, "We've got you."
Of course, for us as a team, we have each other's back. Like, that's what it's all about. It's not about one person. If one person, makes a mistake, it's okay, because the defense has to uplift the offense. Same offense has to uplift the defense. Special teams making plays for everyone. So it's about everybody playing together, everybody, being tight, right? And that's what it's about. That's how you become a really good team, is being connected and guys playing together, playing for each other.
Coach, coming into this season, did you ever imagine that at this point of the season that you all will be one game out of first place, playing against, the first place team in order to take over first place? Do you feel that you all are kind of ahead of the curve this year?
Did you ever imagine you would be in this position in the division standings, and do you feel like you are ahead of the curve right now?
Me, I never thought about this point in the season, because I think if you just take care of it one day at a time, then everything else will take care of itself. And that's always been my approach. So to think, I don't know what week we're in, week 10 or week 11, like, I wasn't thinking about this, during training camp or during the start of the season. I was thinking about right? Our focus for that particular week, that particular day, how can our team get better? How can we continue to grow? And that's still my same mindset as we enter this week, right? How can we get better? How can we grow? There are a lot of things that we did well in that game on Sunday, but there are also a ton of things that we can improve upon. And for me, our focus is, man, continuing to improve, continue to show growth. That way our team can get better down the stretch.
I think that DeMeco lives by I was about to phrase this in a way that would have sounded like an insult. I think like cliches are cliches for a reason because there's some truth to them. So how the importance of taking it one day at a time. But one of the hardest things in life is to actually live by a cliche, and because it takes a lot of discipline. And CJ's genuinely saying the one day at a time thing. He's got a certain amount of zen to him where he can focus on what's right in front of him and doesn't have to worry about the rest of it. It's just refreshing, damn it.
Was AFC South title in view though? Did you have that? Did you all have that in mind? Was that on a vision board or a focus board or anything?
Okay, did you have AFC title on a vision board or on a focus board or anything?
Our vision is winning the day and winning against whoever our opponent is that week.
Who's like what the hell? Who cut in on him? He's trying to explain what his focus was. I'm offended on behalf of DeMeco. Did I skip forward or does that bastard just interrupt him? Okay, I don't think DeMeco has a vision board. Vision boards are more of a Hollywood thing. I know, like I think they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. But as far as the vision board for DeMeco, I bet he's got. I don't know if he has like a sheet of goals or something. I don't see him as a vision board guy. So I'm going to get into some vision boarding, do some collaging this weekend.
Beat an opponent twice. A lot of people talk about adjustments, and both teams are very different from this early juncture of the season to where you are now.
Something about adjustments facing a team the second time.
Each game is different. No, it doesn't matter what happened in our first game versus Jacksonville. It really doesn't matter, right? They've grown, they've changed over the past few weeks, and we have as well. So each game, I take it as it's a new game, it's a new approach each and every time we play an opponent.
With Damian Williams coming back this week, Devin, in his absence, has run extremely well, 256 yards past 2 games. What's kind of going to be the approach there? Is Devin still going to be the starter, or will it be still like that?
I think the question was if Dameon Pierce comes back this week, what will the procedure be in terms of Devin Singletary starting, et cetera?
We'll see how Damian goes, how he practices for the week. Right? It's encouraging to have him back. Damian has been a really good player for us, and to have Damian and have Motor, I think that's a good problem to have. We'll figure it out.
It's a good problem to have. Look, I don't want them to get too clever with anything. I mean, a few weeks ago we saw Devin Singletary get 0 carries in a game, and sometimes when you go into a game and you've got maybe a plan for how you think it might go, and when it comes to doling out reps to running backs, you realize really quickly like, you only got 12, 13 series in a football game. Anywhere between 11 to 14 series of offense in a football game, and depending on how the game flow goes, you can get sideways real quick. And that's what happened with Devin Singletary the last time. Same time, you don't want to be, you don't want to completely change gears 100%. And I say all that to say, as I realize, like Devin Singletary has to be the starter. Like he just has to. I don't see any. A lot of us felt like he should have been getting more reps already anyway before the injury, and with full acknowledgement that the offensive line was an issue. The offensive line has gotten better, but I think right now you just got to roll with the hot hand, dance with the one who brung you, whichever cliche I try to live by this week.
What ways have you seen the Jaguars change in particular? If you've gotten that?
I haven't gotten that far on the Jaguars just yet, so we're still putting to bed the previous game.
You talked about wanting your players to be themselves in the game. Why was that important?
Okay, I can't hear that one. Let's see. He asked about DeMeco wanting players to be themselves, and why is that important?
It's important for me for guys to understand that they can be themselves. I don't want guys to hold anything back or try to feel like they have to be someone they're not, right? I want guys to be loose and also be locked in what we're asking them to do, right? And I feel like that's how you have to operate, right? Everybody being able to express their personality, right? A lot of guys, some guys are talkative, some are not. Some guys, rah-rah guys, you don't have to be that way. However you approach the game and whatever makes you play your best and be who you are, like you be the best version of yourself, right? And if each person that steps into our locker room, each person that, you know, is a part of our team, if they're the best version of themselves, then we'll have a really good team.
Good question down here. Did you talk about Desmond King? I should have mentioned that at some point. Desmond King just got signed. Worried he's replacing an injury we haven't yet heard about. That's a good thought to have. I also do wonder if, this last week they ended up playing Shaq Griffin at linebacker a lot. They were in nickel the whole game. So I wonder if they want some versatility amongst defensive backs who can also play physical. Not that Des King needs to, not that Des King needs to play linebacker, but perhaps allowing if they have to, based on linebacker injuries, if they can have, did I say Shaq Griffin? Jeez. Tavier Thomas, I apologize. Tavier Thomas was playing a lot of linebacker. They were nickel a lot. And maybe if you want Des King to be in the slot, well, he's doing that, or vice versa. Like they're gonna have to have some imperfect personnel groupings against the run here over the next few weeks, and they face some teams that are a little bit more bulky and beefy on the run side of things than they did in Arizona. So that's and James Conner. Not that James Conner isn't a stud. It's just not quite the same actual force equals mass times acceleration of Derrick Henry.
This week of Thanksgiving, I'm curious, what are you thankful for?
What are you thankful for, DeMeco? I'm actually interested in this response. This is okay. You know what? Father's Day is one of the big baseball questions. So baseball, you always get Father's Day. What was it like playing with your dad? Thanksgiving and Christmas, football players get those questions. Basketball, obviously the President's Day questions you always get.
First and foremost, I'm
Actually, there's reasons you don't. Yeah, never mind. That's not how it is in basketball.
thankful for my family, and the sacrifices that my wife and kids that they put up with me having to deal with the job here a lot of time away. So I'm truly thankful for my wife and all the sacrifices that she's made and all the work that she does behind the scenes and allowing me to do what I love doing.
This is the time of year.
Let's describe Blake Cashman's performance, not just from yesterday, but the entire season.
Okay, can you talk about Blake Cashman's performance? 19 tackles yesterday and a couple quarterback harassments. It's freaking ridiculous.
Blake did a really good job for us. Throughout the whole season, Blake has shown up and made plays for us. Yesterday, the thing that stood out for me with Blake was him stepping in at the Mike linebacker spot, which is a position he hasn't played all year. But for him to step in and handle the communication, right, really well, I think that just speaks to Blake and his growth and, how important he is to our team. Right, being able to play multiple spots, it's really important for us. And Blake stood up, made a lot of plays for us yesterday, and he's done that all year. So very encouraged with Blake's growth throughout the year.
All right. How long was the sound out? Damn it. 5:45 p.m. 5:45. Are you on mute? Oh my God. All right. I'll go back to the StreamYard. You know, StreamYard's pissing me off. Did you hear DeMeco's answer? All right. I'll put DeMeco's answer up here about Cashman. So, you know what? I'm so glad my sound was off there. That might have been the hand of God coming down and saving me, because there were a couple names that I couldn't remember. I was embarrassed about not.
Job for us throughout the whole season. Blake has shown up and made plays for us. Yesterday, the thing that stood out for me with Blake was him stepping in at the Mike linebacker spot, which is a position he hasn't played all year. But for him to step in and handle the communication right really well, I think that just speaks to Blake and his growth, and how important he is to our team. Right, being able to play multiple spots is really important for us, and Blake stood up, made a lot of plays for us yesterday, and he's done that all year. So very encouraged with Blake's growth throughout the year.
Okay, so as far as Billy Cashman goes, now that they've got these injuries with Toa and like various other Littletons or whomever else has been signed in here throughout the year, the fact that Christian Harris has come along like he has the past few weeks, now I'm starting to think, okay, I can talk about the 49ers defense and how important it is to that defense to have Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So it's those two guys, and then they've swapped out a third linebacker. I think for like 3 of the last 4 or 5 years, they've shuffled guys in and out of there. If you've got two studs that are rangy in coverage and can go sideline to sideline, it makes a big difference, and you can be versatile elsewhere. So it's huge that Cashman and Christian Harris are playing so well. The Christian Harris all of a sudden is like a go-to money Johnny on the spot. What would David Cawley call him? A football playing Jesse is what he is. We got 2 football playing Jessies back there, just like Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. They're not as good as those 2 guys yet, but I could see them as they get into the system being like that. The other 2 guys, the names I couldn't remember while my mic was dead, thank you, Jesus, was Pat Willis and Navarro Bowman back when Vic Fangio was in San Francisco. When you got 2 rangy linebackers, it makes everybody behind you better because they don't have as big a bubble to defend. It makes the guys in front of you better. And so that gets really exciting. That's where I've been way too conservative. I take that back. I haven't been too conservative because there are a couple things that had to be fixed. One, the linebacker play in coverage. And it's funny now with even just only 2 healthy linebackers, I feel really good about it because you have those 2 guys. 2, the rushing offense. Those 2 things in the last 2 weeks have really congealed. And that's one of the things that makes me feel like they can actually make a push in the playoffs. They got to get better at tackling. They have to get better at tackling. They can keep swarming. That's awesome. But you know what, man? Yeah, swarming is awesome, but every now and then save the legs of that 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th guy that have to make the tackle after there's 3 missed tackles. All right.
The season for a team for their growth, to see them win in different ways.
Something about winning in different ways.
That's what it's about. Each week is different, right? However, and I tell a guy, however you have to win, it doesn't matter. Like, just finish with the win. It's no such thing to me as an ugly win. I don't know what that means. At the end of the day, you put in all the work throughout the week to finish with the win. And however you have to do it, whether it's 50-49, whether it's 6-0, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you have to find a way to win.
I would include in that no such thing as an ugly woman who's interested in you. I think sometimes looking back on my youth, I was too picky about things in general with women, whether it be their personality, their looks, anything else. As long as you're upfront and honest about, like, hey, let's just hang out and see where this goes, and we can enjoy each other's company. You're just trying to check off so many boxes with so many. Who the hell am I even talking to? You guys are all on apps these days. I don't know how to date. I wouldn't have a clue. I'd be lost out there. I'd be so lonely. Please don't leave me, Brandy. Let's see. Yeah, that missed tackle on 4th down when Murray scored was the worst one I've seen. How about in the 4th quarter when the dude got, oh, I counted it. It was 5 missed tackles and like 20 yards after contact. Boom, 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 boom. They kept coming up on 4th down. The Texans did with these stops, but my God, it didn't have to be so dramatic. Oh, that's right. I haven't, other than in gushing terms like George Fanton is blocking. George Fanton is hawking down of interception nuisances. Yeah, George Fant made a hell of a play. Like it might have been the play of the game. It might have been on CJ's interception where George Fant hawked that dude down on the sideline. The offensive line still, honestly, like it could be better, but I'm not like they're on that right path now. It was about 5 weeks there where they weren't on the path, and it was really getting annoying as hell. And now all of a sudden they're on that path. Part of it has been, and who brought this up? Oh, John Harris has brought this up. You know, it's interesting that Dalton Schultz, or it's no coincidence that Dalton Schultz started to really take off when Laramie Tunsil came back, because all of a sudden, lo and behold, when Laramie Tunsil can just be left alone on an island with a good pass rusher, you free up the linebackers and running backs who don't have to chip as much, or when they do, we've seen the running backs have to help out Titus Howard some at times instead of having to help out the left tackle at all. And that makes a big difference. And Laramie's he's in that Dwayne Brown position right now where, because they can depend on him and because he's left out on an island, he's going to have some bad reps in any game versus really good pass rushers. And so that sticks out in people's minds. Like, trust me. Yes, I've seen his bad snaps. The sum total of what he does is really, really valuable because they can put him in that position.
After the defense got a 4th down stop, the cameras got you in 4K, pounding your fist, you're really fired up. I'm curious how much of that player competitiveness is still in you, and how you are on game day for the team.
I'm fired.
Let's see on how much his experience and how much is his how much of his competitiveness is still in him from his time as a player.
Up for my players to see the work that they put in and to see them make big plays for us. Right, we're getting stops, we're getting off the field, we're getting explosives on offense, we're scoring touchdowns. Like, I'm fired up for these guys because, man, I truly care about them, and I'm excited to see their success. Right, them being successful, that's what gets me going. Right, that's what pumps me up. Seeing Tank and CJ connect and make plays, seeing Steve Nelson, right, make plays, seeing Stingley, right, back making big time interceptions, Will having a big game, pressuring the quarterback, sacking the quarterback. Like, that gets me fired up, man, because I know the work that our guys have put in, and I know how hard it is to make a play on Sunday. It's hard to make plays, but to see those guys excel, that really fires me up.
Coach, you talking about guys.
Teams that you've been in big games, you've been a part of teams that played in the Super Bowl, teams that have been on the cusp of getting to the Super Bowl. Obviously, this is a big week for divisional standings. How much would that experience help you with making them not think this game is bigger than what it actually is?
Okay, this is where I feel. This is where I feel like, all right, man. This is a big game, but the question is. You've been in big games before. You've been on a team that was in a Super Bowl. Why am I blanking on which team was in a Super Bowl? But he's been in playoff games. He's been in big games. Oh, yeah, of course, 49ers. I was thinking as a player. How will that help you prepare your players for this big game, which is a regular season game against the Jaguars?
Yeah. For me, how do you help a team to understand like how big a game is without making a big deal? It's the same approach each week. Like our approach to practice, it shouldn't change. Like, it's the same approach we had last week. It's just being focused on yourself first and foremost, like cleaning up the mistakes that you had in this last game. That's been the focus. And if everybody cleans up their 1 or 2 mistakes, and if we go out and not have those same mistakes again on Sunday, right, we'll have a really good chance of winning this game.
Yeah, I think, like, honestly, and I've talked to you guys about this before. I thought when Coughlin was a younger coach when I was with him, and I don't know, he was like in his 60s. He was really, really, really uptight about things. And when it was a big game, he let everybody know what a big game it was. And it's really the opposite of what a lot of guys, like, honestly, I think like Belichick do, where Belichick's whole philosophy is everything's the same every week. There shouldn't be a superhuman effort in the playoffs or in a big regular season game, because that means that you're not doing enough in the other weeks. So the most important thing is to have a routine and do the same things every week. And kind of akin to what DeMeco talked about in his first answer, it's not about doing more than what you're supposed to. It's about doing what you're supposed to do really, really well. And when you have a team full of the right kind of guys, they naturally rise to the occasion. I really do believe that. I think that the best playoff performers generally approach it like it's any other game. Consciously, but then unconsciously you rise to the level of the moment. And I think that's the way DeMeco's wired. I don't worry about these guys choking in big moments.
Taking satisfaction in guys making plays, the ones that are putting in a lot of hard work. You seem to take Christian Harris on your wing from a very early point. What was it like for you seeing him be as impactful as he was yesterday, making some important plays down the stretch?
I was excited.
So the question was, what was it like for you watching Christian Harris? I guess maybe just come into his own.
For Christian, he's made some big time plays there, batting the ball down and a couple pressures there with him blitzing, big time stops for us. So I'm excited for Christian and his growth and what he's doing. Christian's a really good player, and he has a lot to improve on, a lot to grow, and he's dialed in and he's dedicated to growing. So really coachable guy. Really love his spirit, love the way he fights, love the way he gets after it on Sundays. So just excited for Christian and what he can continue to become as a player.
Christian, in so many ways, it feels like we might be able to relive the Zach Cunningham experience, except do it right this time. This is like the second incarnation of Zach Cunningham, where Cunningham, there were so many things to like about him, but he just couldn't get it in pass coverage. And there were some things in the run. Like one of the reasons I would always get frustrated with Christian is that, or with Zach Cunningham, is that he was, really good against the run and would make these huge plays, but it was at the expense of the much, much more important thing in modern football of being good in pass coverage. So I always felt like he was the right coach away from really turning into something. And he's had some good flashes and moments since he left the Texans. But I think Christian Harris was, a different player in some regards, but very, very athletic, just like Zach Cunningham. And it just wasn't clicking for him. And he just couldn't get it. And I was hoping that DeMeco would be the thing that made a difference. And I was starting to get a little bit nervous a few games into the season. It really looks like it's clicked for him. I mean, he looks like he is a magnet for the ball and doing it, taking the right angles, showing up on time to break up passes, doing all this increasingly high level stuff. So it's really cool to see that alone. If you had to hire somebody out there is going to look at Bobby Slowick and hire him just because they want a good offensive coordinator and they'll hope that he can be a good head coach. Like I know philosophically many of you don't agree with that, but that's the way offenses have been hiring people out of this system, out of San Francisco. They'll hire Matt LaFleur and you're like, I don't know, he doesn't seem like a head coach personality, but we need an offensive coordinator. Let's get him. I don't know if Zach Taylor's got a personality. I don't know if Kevin Stefanski knows what he's doing. We want those offenses. So it's going to happen with Slowick. And obviously I was just joking about hiring DeMeco just to bring in a linebackers coach. But it is one small benefit. Aside from all the other stuff, I think the linebackers especially are going to benefit from it.
One more, Sergeant.
You talked about what you're grateful for. What is it that would definitely be on your plate for Thanksgiving?
Okay. What will definitely be on your plate for Thanksgiving? God help him if he says pumpkin pie.
Definitely on my plate for Thanksgiving. Hopefully a Miss Kim sweet potato pie. No, that's a good one. No.
I'll tell you what, this is a product of geography, but I'd never had sweet potato pie before I started living in the South. And kind of ashamed that I used to be like a staunch defender of pumpkin pie, where now I made the switch to sweet potato pie. And pumpkin pie tastes like something that had been left in the garbage too long on a hot day. Like it tastes good, but you know that it's kind of disgusting and gross. You know, your typical trash pie that you eat when you're down hard.
Coach on yesterday, CJ was talking about that he was going to keep letting the ball fly. He says that, Curry doesn't stop shooting when he missed shots. And so the mistakes that he made on yesterday is not going to hinder him from, continue to let the ball fly. When you have someone like that with that type of attitude, that type of, for lack of a better word, machismo, what does that mean as far as the leadership with this team and having that?
Okay. He referenced CJ saying that he was going to be like Steph Curry. He's going to keep shooting even if he was missing shots, as an analogy for him throwing interceptions. And I think the question was, I like it. He used the word machismo. The question was something along the lines of, what's it like to have a guy with that kind of machismo or cojones, you might say?
I love CJ's attitude about him continuing to shoot like Curry, and that's the only way you continue to get better, right? You learn from your mistakes and you continue to attack it, and that's how I want CJ to approach the game. I want him to approach the game with an attack-first mindset, and we're not going to hold back just because we make mistakes. He also made a lot of big plays for us in that game, so we won't let 3 or 4 negative plays affect how he plays the game. We continue to trust him, continue to lean on him and his leadership and what he's done for our offense, right? We're in a position we're in because of his play, and we'll continue to lean on him.
As far as those interceptions, if we were to go the one on the sideline, at this point, I can't even remember which order they were in. Well, let's see. The one in the end zone. That one, I still wonder, and I don't know if anybody addressed it today, but based on the conversation on the sideline, it almost looked like they anticipated seeing a different coverage, or maybe CJ thought he was going to see a different look, because there wasn't any reason for him to not see that safety. At least from the TV copy, it didn't look anything. It had rotated. There was nothing bluffed or anything like that. So I don't know exactly why he would have been blind to it, unless he was just really trying to throw a high one out the back of the end zone that only Nico could have gotten. Then it's just a poor throw. So there's that. The one on the sideline, I think typically CJ is going to get more height on that ball. The one over the middle, I think Clint said the one over the middle was the one that he thought was a genuinely poor decision to make. I wonder. I mean, if you'd gone lower with it, as I think about all three of those, and Robert Woods theoretically could have caught the damn ball too. I mean, he was covered. Don't get me wrong, but usually CJ's pretty good about throwing low to Robert Woods when he's covered and throwing it somewhere where only he can get it. So I wonder if some of it, aside from perhaps maybe pushing the envelope a little too hard, was just him not quite being himself yesterday. It's like the whole, let's say somebody offers somebody's like an Annie Oakley sharpshooter, and somebody offers you like, hey, $1,000 to let her shoot an apple off your head. I'm not taking that $1,000, because even Annie Oakley has an off day. Who knows if she just started taking up the booze or the Delta 8 or something. I'm not taking that risk. And I think every now and then the quarterbacks who are otherwise Annie Oakleys have a little bit of an off day. Let's see. And I'm eager for some of your guys' opinions on the interceptions too. So let's get our friend. Let's see. Do we want Devin Singletary, Christian Harris, or Maliek Collins next? Everybody vote in the next 20 seconds. Let's see. I don't know if we're going to get to all of them. Oh, and you guys are on a little bit of a delay. Oh, because the internet connection at this studio with its 7 radio stations and whatever other highfalutin business they do has worse internet than my house does. So you guys are delayed on this to keep it from Annie gone off the. Okay, Harris is likable. Harris, Singletary. You know what? All right, I'm gonna go with. I've got 2 votes for Harris and 1 for 3 votes for Harris, 1 for Singletary. I'm gonna go with Harris because I feel like Harris has got a little bit more. I don't think Cashman wasn't one of the press conferences today. Sorry. I want to see me some Christian Harris because I want to hear exactly what he says about just working with DeMeco and all that. Oh, and real quick, after he knocked out of the game was when he started throwing interceptions. I think he had one before, right? Did he have one interception? Then he got hit, and then he had the two others. Correct me on that if so.
I think, just honing in on the details.
Okay. The question was, what have you guys been doing late in games as a defense? Let me see if they have any other transcripts of these guys. I don't think they do. I think they just have our friend. Oh. Sorry, I just got a notification that an ad that I need to do was recorded poorly. All right, I'll have to do that after Christian Harris. Okay, he was asked about what is it about this defense, let's listen real hard. Let's try it one more time. Where do you see the improvement in the defense overall late in games?
I think, just honing in on the details. It's a 4-quarter game, so, you might have a good first couple quarters, but, obviously in this league, games come down to that last possession, maybe the last two, so just trying to find a way to be more consistent and staying on those details throughout the whole game.
You know what? That's a basic answer, but I think that's it. Like a lot of it is just getting to know the defense and understanding, especially, when they ask these guys to play zone, like knowing those zones like the back of your hand, which nobody actually knows the back of their hand all that well, but whatever. We're talking about cliches tonight, so I'm going to use that one. I think that you've just seen things snap a little faster. That's where Derek Stingley, I think, is like he's built to be a man cover corner, being a zone corner, even though theoretically it's easier to be really good at being a zone corner, it takes reps, and Derek just hasn't had that many reps. So that's something that I think he's going to continue to get better at. But I probably trust him more in a big moment right now in man coverage than I do if he has to play zone.
How far would you say you've come in this defense from OTAs to this point?
I think, my understanding of the defense has grown a lot. A lot with the reps as well has helped a lot. Just filling stuff out, knowing plays, or being able to recognize, anticipate, stuff that's coming. So, it's definitely helped me a lot. With the help of Coach DeMeco, of course, and Coach Kiff, and all the coaches that we have and the players on the team. They make the job a lot easier.
What do you feel like DeMeco has added most to this team?
I think he has that dog mentality. So I think for one, everybody for sure wants to play for him. It makes you want to listen to him even more and respect everything that he's saying. And so we just go out there each and every day and, try to attack the things that he wants us to. And, it ends up working out for us. He's somebody that's played in this league and well respected. So, he's a great leader for us.
I remember talking to Jamie Sharper about two of his coaches. They were both linebackers, and then they coached him. One was, I'll say three actually, because one was a player. But the first, Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio played 10 years in the NFL as a linebacker, and then was a coordinator for just a few years before he got the job in Jacksonville. But he started off as an assistant coach in Baltimore. That was one of his first jobs. And Del Rio is kind of like DeMeco, psychotic as a player, but different than DeMeco off the field, but just a really, really intelligent guy who was good partly because he was so good at diagnosing plays, and he taught Jamie Sharper a lot about how to play football, and especially the intellectual side of it. I think he had Singletary one year also, and Singletary likewise too, just had a different. Singletary is more physically gifted and saw the game in a different way, and then Ray Lewis was just a whole different category of everything. But he played alongside Ray Lewis, so he learned a lot from Ray Lewis too. And there is something about a linebacker. I think linebackers and defensive backs, I love having defensive backs on the broadcast. I feel like they understand the whole game better than quarterbacks do. I think they see the game a lot differently. And so I really enjoy it when they have a defensive back on the broadcast. Archuleta, we've had Archuleta. Hopefully, I think the Texans are going to be good enough now that they don't get Archuleta much anymore, which is too bad. Maybe Archuleta keeps getting elevated, but I think with DeMeco, you see all those elements of a guy that really, really, really understands the game intellectually, but he's got that same fire of a linebacker. And it's a really nice blend to have in a coach. More linebackers as coaches and more defensive backs as commentators, please.
What do you think the biggest difference from you as a player right now compared to you as a player last year around this time of the season?
I mean, I'd probably say I just feel more experience with understanding plays. Like I can anticipate a little bit more. I mean, for sure, some stuff I still feel like I can, obviously look at on film and evaluate and improve on for myself. But I just think my overall understanding of, it's a different defense, but it's the league, like understanding the speed, just adjusting on the fly in the games. I mean, you can have a game plan, but when you get into the game, they're going to sit there in the first 15, give you something you've never seen. So learning how to adjust on the fly like that and staying within your rules, I mean, it's been helping me a lot.
That's honestly, look, I've heard this from a couple guys now, and I heard this from Fred Warner in an interview he did about DeMeco and the defense last year. Is that ability to understand that, okay, the game's going to change from the game's going to be a little bit different, and the offense is going to look a little bit different than what you saw on film. And they're going to have a specific plan for you. So the guys who can figure out as fast as possible what they're trying to do to you are really, really valuable. And I don't think a lot of guys really grasp or understand that you have to look at the game that way. And maybe they're not taught to, but the guys that can, especially linebackers, remember, you get 12 possessions in a football game. So every possession you go out there without understanding, oh, okay, this is what they're doing to us today, or this is how they're trying to attack us. You're wasting an opportunity. You're wasting 8% of the production for the day because you don't know what's going on. So Christian Harris understanding that concept, that's a big step. That goes a long way.
They're all big games, but this is pivotal in the AFC South. What's the approach this week as you guys get ready to face Jacksonville?
I mean, it's the same approach every week.
This is a pivotal game in the AFC South. What's the approach this week? And I think he's going to echo DeMeco's sentiment, right?
I mean, it's the same approach every week, especially, with this new team, new coaching staff and everything. I mean, it's been trying to dominate every week, 1-0 every week. I don't think we should, sit here and try and make everything bigger than what it is or listen to the rat poison, the crowd noise on the outside. I think we stay focused on what we're doing. We'll like the outcome. Rat poison.
Alabama guy. He hears about rat poison all the time. Saban hates the rat poison. Rat poison, it's a different level of Saban's obsessiveness with guys not getting too high on themselves. That's a hard job for when you coach at a place. Look at Texas. Honestly, I don't know. That might be what sets apart Texas from Alabama in terms of just genuinely why Alabama has been able to thrive with a certain caliber of recruit, where Texas, until hasn't always been able to thrive with that same level of recruit. It's just so much of keeping those kids from getting their heads too big. It's hard to do, and Alabama's got to do it after they've won national championships and everything. It's just one of the biggest things you have to do if you're going to have a dynasty. So all of you aspiring young dynasty creators, be more of a bastard to your players.
Anything else? All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Lamont, hey buddy. Let's see. I don't think people outside of Houston realize how many starters are out. Yeah, and I, honestly, I have to keep reminding myself of that. I do. If you think about what was the year that they won the Super Bowl, the Packers won the Super Bowl. Remember, they had 6 starters out on defense that year. It was really impressive what they did. And they did a great job of not making any excuses about it. I see cheese. I take cheese. I know. Coach, let me take the cheese. Houston's winning these games with a triage unit. Yeah, I think also, I was trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure out if I'm being a homer or not. Tell me if I'm being a homer. Let me pull up somebody else, too. That person who wants that re-recorded ad for me is just going to have to wait until I hear from Devin Singletary. But tell me if I'm being a homer here. I don't look at this team, despite their consecutive streak of however many games where they've had games come down to the last couple possessions. I don't look at them as like a cardiac kids type of situation, just because there haven't been wildly improbable finishes. It hasn't been a Hail Mary. There hasn't been an interception return for a touchdown that gives you the go ahead. So it doesn't look. I'd love to be winning by 2 scores and have it all sewed up in the fourth quarter like it easily could have been yesterday more often, but it still feels substantial. Like if you look at the box score from yesterday, and this is what I kept kind of leaning on, is even as you might get frustrated with the interceptions or anything else, like if you just look at, let's see, first downs, that ended up being even. Texans had 22 to the Cardinals 20, because in the fourth quarter, these fourth quarter letdowns by the defense are a little bit troublesome. Okay, third down efficiency. Texans were 69%, 9 of 13 converting third downs, whereas the Cardinals were 3 for 10 on third downs. Like the Texans won third downs, 419 yards of total offense to 319 yards of total offense. Texans over the Cardinals. I think the rush game was one where, I'd say the Cardinals ended up beating the Texans. But in general, I just felt like on a play-by-play basis, really through all 4 quarters, the Texans were the more physical and better football team. They just made it a little bit harder on themselves. So without trying to take anything away from the Cardinals or anything, I don't look at them as like a cardiac kids type of a situation. I just think that they need to clean a few things up and be more consistent. And remember, they've won the last 2 games with CJ turning the ball over 6 times. Like that's a sign of a pretty good football team if you can win those games where you hurt yourself that many times. Let's see. All right. So Devin Singletary, for those of you who just joined us, this is not a good day for hearing the question. So I'm going to try to recap it as best I can, just in case your earbuds or anything are slightly worse than mine.
What do you feel like y'all have found these last 2 weeks or so really allowed y'all to get the running game?
So Devin Singletary was asked, what do you guys think you have found in the run game these last couple of weeks?
Good rhythm, you know what I'm saying? Everybody getting in the groove, everybody on the same page, trusting each other, communicating well, and just all 11 of us just doing our job. That's the biggest thing, you know what I'm saying?
It was hard to talk about the last when it was bad, because you could point out 1 or 2 things on almost every run play of where somebody was screwing up. And a lot of times, just by sheer numbers, there was going to be an offensive lineman screwing up. There was going to be a tight end completely out to lunch. There was going to be a running back that wasn't really seeing the cutback lane and cutting quickly enough. It was a hodgepodge of a bunch of different things. And, it was one of you guys actually that pointed out one night and reminded me that Kubiak's offense never really got going in the run game until Alex Gibbs Sr. got here. And then even then, I think, wasn't it over a year until it really clicked? Wasn't it? I mean, frankly, it was a combination of a couple of running backs, one of which was Arian Foster, when it really, 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 and Steve Slayton, where it really, really, really took off. But I think that the fact that it did start to click versus a bad rushing defense in the Bengals, and then versus a better rushing defense, not a supreme rush defense, but a better rushing defense this past week, that's a pretty good timeline. I think that's more advanced. I was as frustrated as anybody. I was not patient about it because, like, you can't have faith that Bobby Slowick knows how to. I was actually getting frustrated that the passing offense was looking so good while the rushing offense was still atrocious, because it felt like, well, okay, if Bobby's a genius in the pass game, then what the hell's wrong with the run game? I think it was just a matter of time for it to start clicking. This will be the real test this week. We'll see. I'm not stamping the certificate of authenticity just yet on the rushing attack, but I feel a whole lot better about it right now than I did 2 weeks ago. What's the biggest difference in the run game between the beginning of the season and now?
Yeah, just early in the season, it'll be like, all right, we was close on a lot of things. Could have been one block here or one misread there. You know what I'm saying? That throws stuff off. But now we clicking. Everybody, you know what I'm saying, doing what they got to do to make things roll, and that's what it is. Just basically playing clean ball. You know what I'm saying?
I got to pay attention to how many times Titus has pulled in the last couple of weeks compared to in previous weeks, because it looked. I mean, Titus looked like a guy who had never played offensive line until he moved from quarterback to offensive line in college. And because he was so unaccustomed to playing guard, him pulling and deciding what he was supposed to do with the end man on the line of scrimmage, it was like watching a junior high kid learn how to play offensive line for the first time. And I'm not saying this to pick on Titus. All those guys had bad moments. It's just that was the one that was really, really frustrating because it just felt so out of place. I think it's a combination of guys getting better and understanding their responsibilities better, but also Bobby Slowick understanding what guys can and can't do. And maybe they'll try to bring that along and try to expand the playbook some, but it got to a point where you just got to stick with what you can do competently. Okay. You don't need to be doing a bunch of stuff. And I don't frankly need to see the cute little tosses at times on days when you're otherwise running the ball well to Aaron Boone on gotta have it. I don't like the Andrew Beck fullback dives. I know they got a touchdown off of that earlier, but I don't like the gadgetry and gotta have it situations. I like to experiment with that. And then just, I don't know.
Has it always been a close team, or is it like now and success is happening and you guys know each other better? It's a closer locker room.
Yeah, you know that's gonna happen with time. You know, as time go on, we just continue to get closer. You know, the most stuff you go through, you go through something with somebody, the bond becomes stronger. So yeah, it's just been with time.
I thought he said something about blunt, and I was like, oh no, the KC3. We can't have a KC3 situation. Name the KC3. KC3 was Justin. No, I was almost said Justin Jefferson. There's a kid from Baylor. The other kid from Notre Dame, the running back. The three guys that got caught smoking a cigar, a cigar type substance in the bathroom in Kansas City the night before. Oh, and then it was it was Montgomery too, right? Yeah. All right. You guys are on delay, so I'll look at that after you have the answer. I wish I had a present to give away. I'm not Titus Howard. I don't have tickets to give.
Man, my family, you know what I'm saying? Be in my right mind and good health.
What are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Man, my family, you know what I'm saying? Be in my right mind and good health. Of course, I'm thankful for my teammates, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's what I'm thankful for.
Is there anything unique about this team that or anything that you see in this team that you saw in previous teams that is the reason why y'all
Yeah, just
Is there anything about this specific team that you think is the reason they might be successful?
how close we becoming. You know, that goes a long way. You know what I'm saying? And I think you guys can see it on the field. And we just continue to band together. I think that's the main thing, you know what I'm saying? And being able to correct our mistakes and learn from them and continue to grow, continue to find ways to get better. You know, that's the name of the game.
I do think that they've done a pretty good job of finding guys for whom football is important to them. Like I think sometimes coaches start trying to draft high character guys, and they're nice kids, they're Boy Scouts, and all that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they absolutely can't live without football. And I feel like they've got more of those guys that just, frankly, ideally you should almost have an unhealthy attachment of your identity to being a football player. These are like people always want to talk about like, hey, this game doesn't define you. Go fuck yourself. Like, why can't it define? Yes, by all means, let it define you. Like, what do you think? What are you looking for in this life? Not everything has to be like have a higher meaning and everything. Just go ahead and identify with what you are good at doing. And there you go. If you break your leg and you can't play football anymore, then go find something else to be good at and identify with that. My God, everybody overthinks everything so much.
weekly dinner? What do you guys like to do? Start hanging out?
Yeah, sometimes.
So what are you talking about? How do you get to know each other? Weekly dinner? What are we talking about here? Where can I go? Where can I watch you?
Start hanging
Yeah,
out?
sometimes weekly dinner, or we step out, go bowling or something, whatever it may be, things of that nature.
You best bowler
I'm all right. I ain't gonna say I'm the best bowler. I'm decent.
Can you talk about the difference it's made to have the consistency in terms of the offensive line, like the same unit playing together, how much that's helped?
Could you talk about that was Kim Davis asking about the importance of continuity on the offensive line and how much that has helped?
Yeah, that helps a lot. When it's not like a lot of shuffling pieces, them guys get a feel for how they want to do things, and how they talking, how they communicating. It goes a long way.
How important is it, do you think, for the growth of your team to see yourselves win in different kinds of ways?
I just wanted to address what he was saying about the offensive line. Yeah, the biggest thing, honestly, is the timing and communication, especially. The offensive line. It's not like they necessarily always have a specific call for different types of blocks or when a guy is leaving or anything. Like they develop that amongst themselves, and it takes time. Because they start to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be said, what doesn't need to be said. When you're passing off responsibilities, all that, there's a lot of communication that goes on. I guess if I were to make an analogy about something that I know nothing about, I would say it's kind of like a fighter pilot and his navigator behind him, like Maverick and Goose. It's like that. Like you can't throw that schlub that replaced Goose in with Maverick and expect them to be the same guy. He didn't know how to talk Maverick out of whatever weird funk or depression he was in because he didn't have like Goose. Goose is the only guy that could have talked Maverick out of the funk he was in because of the death of his friend Goose. That was the whole irony of the thing.
Very important. You know what I'm saying? And the NFL is tough, man. Every game is gonna be tough, but to be able to find ways to win in different ways, that's gonna be big for us down the line. So it's important that we're able to do that.
Twice. How tough is it, setting whether this team or the Bills to beat a team twice?
How hard is it to beat a team twice, facing the Jaguars for the second time this year?
It's real tough, man, because them guys gonna come back even more motivated. You know what I'm saying? They playing great ball right now as well, and you kind of showed them something once, so you kind of gotta maybe switch some things up or whatever it may be. But it's always to beat somebody tough. Twice. It's always tough to beat somebody twice. You know what I'm saying?
I think part of it too, like there's the strategic side, but then there's also just the natural grudge match side. It does. Your pride kicks in. Man, if you get beat, especially you get beat by somebody physically, like one-on-one, your battle, that sticks with you. And like that whole next week, you got a lot of extra motivation because every time you're watching film, that's the worst part. If somebody gets the better of you in the first matchup, when it comes time to prepare for the second matchup, you watch that game more than any other game to correct errors, to see what they're going to try to do it again. And if you got beat, like you're watching it over and over again, your coach might yell at you again. Sometimes you get yelled at the next year. So if they play the Jaguars in week the first time this year, and somebody messed up, let's say Christian Harris missed a read, and they're preparing for him now. Then Christian Harris got to sit there on Wednesday as DeMeco is presenting to the team. And let's say DeMeco is a real son of a bitch or something, which we know he's not. And DeMeco's tearing into Christian Harris about this mistake he made 5 weeks ago. And then, okay, that's over. And then you go through the playoffs. I don't know, probably go to the Super Bowl or something. And then you have the whole offseason. Then come September next year, Christian Harris is sitting in a meeting room waiting to watch film. Film comes on, Christian Harris is getting yelled at again about something that happened a year ago. So, like, that's why people are motivated to play these games. They've been getting yelled at a lot about mistakes they made.
Kind of getting back to the previous question about finding different ways to win. Last week, after CJ had thrown the interception in the fourth quarter, he said he went over there to DeMeco and said, "Hey, I got you."
Yeah.
Not knowing if he was going to have, or maybe the offense was going to have another opportunity yesterday late. Did the defense maybe say anything to you guys, like, to the contrary, like, "Hey, we got you this week"?
Yeah, that's all that was said, man. Of course we don't want to see no mistakes happen, but it comes with the game, you know what I'm saying? And that's definitely what they were saying. They was like, "Don't worry about it, man. We got y'all." That's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? That's how you forming a great team, you know what I'm saying? When things like that go down, playing complimentary football and just guys having each other back,
I saw a question here real quick that I want to address because I was curious about this myself. Hex said a lot of talk about the Texans having one of the easiest NFL schedules, but the Dolphins are 7-3, haven't beat a good team yet. I just want to look at, there's a site I go to. Oh, it's Sharp Football Analysis. Warren Sharp. He annoys me sometimes, but I thought that this was relevant. Let me try to share this. Let's see what comes of it. This is the strength of schedule updated weekly by the Vegas odds. So it's adjusted for basically what Vegas thinks of that team currently. And the Texans had started off the season with one of the easiest strengths of schedules. Right now, it's more 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have the 9th, I guess, easiest. I don't know if green means easy or what. Let's see. Easiest schedules: Falcons, Saints, Colts. Yeah. So the Falcons, the Saints, the Colts, San Francisco, the Panthers, Chicago, the Steelers, and the Seahawks all have easier schedules than the Texans. The Eagles right next to, I don't know if a bunch of people are talking about the Eagles' strength of schedule or what have you. And the important thing is the Texans are right down here near the meaty part of the curve, and they've already beat some playoff teams. They beat the Steelers, they beat the Jaguars. They knocked the Bengals out of the playoffs while they still had Joe Burrow. So I'm not overly concerned about that. So if any of you are watching, I got a text in the middle of this saying that I had messed up a work assignment with my actual job. So I need to go ahead and take care of that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. First, please hit the like button and subscribe. Damn it. I've been up since 3 a.m. So people are saying this is not the same Jaguars from week 3. I say this is not the Texans from week 3. Yeah, I think these are two different teams in a lot of ways. Partly because, the Jaguars weren't that team that everybody thought they were just going to pick up right where they left off last year after being in the playoffs. And I think they learned, or they already knew, Doug Peterson already knew, it's not as simple as that. He's been through that before. He understands the next season's completely different. It took them for a little while to get their stride. But yeah, the Texans couldn't run the ball. The Texans pass rush is getting really disciplined. There's so many sacks in the last 2 weeks that are a combination of a really good individual effort, but then the pocket just collapsing uniformly. It's kind of like when a nuclear warhead detonates, when it had to be on the first, I don't know how they do it anymore. Maybe now they just light a match to it. But I know just from the Manhattan Project and everything, the big challenge was creating an explosion, an implosion where everything collapsed with equal force all around. And that's what it was like. It was like the first nuclear warhead when they had that really on Will Anderson's sack there. It just collapsed. Will Anderson had done his job of containing. He came underneath, and there you go. Little what's its face there. So congratulations on all of the success on your own personal Manhattan Project, Houston Texans. Those physicists, they pulled a lot. They were like rock stars after that. They were, I remember reading a story by Richard Feynman who's talking about all these people, they were getting so much adulation, all these physicists. Nobody even knew what a physicist was till then. They're like, oh, yeah, who invented the bomb? Physicists. What the hell's a physicist? I don't know, but I want a piece of them. There's your half-ass physics lesson of the day.